And it's supposed to be over in West Virginia.
Oh, wow.
And then I've got two that are going to
Every Friday.
And I would send it over that way.
Race to try and get anything.
And
Fair
I'm like,
enough.
I told the sales guys, there's a customer, and
Yeah.
I know that, if this weather's bad, I'm going to tell them not to go.
I think no, it's a safety thing.
Yeah.
Thank you, by the way.
I'm here to serve.
No big deal. I'll come tonight.
Yeah,
Good. No. I just didn't know if there was anything that.
but yeah, here we'll grab something.
Let's see. Let's get this turned down so it doesn't crack. What do I? Yeah, I'll tell you. Half the stuff's junk I get. I got 3 minutes. Well, I should have got the brain trust here today. Cramps a shoulder.
Monster drink, energy drink. They'll give me an endorsement.
How many you drink a day?
The beard. He's
Right now, I'm down to 1.5. Normally, it's at least 2.
Is it expensive?
It's $3 a can.
$3 a can. I've always seen you drinking them.
these are the things we leave out.
Being at work and the president and the vice president, of course, everybody's we all sat down and all said, "Are you feeling okay?" "Yeah, I feel fine." I said, "What? Something special or something?" He goes, "No, you're drinking a water I've never seen you without a nose."
Serious. That's too funny.
Everybody else could.
They always seem to go off. Get opportune time.
Yeah, and it's always in a space where everybody can hear everything.
Everybody's quiet, yeah.
But I can be sitting beside you, and I'm a,
Once we have
thank you. We're all being looked at.
Podium mic on.
it's got the sharp. Is it working?
Oh, thanks. Wow.
Shingles again? We had a good winter
It's
Do any
West
commercial?
Virginia. So,
We haven't been. That's where they came from.
I think if it was Justin.
I turned it on.
Justin. I don't remember now. I think that was it.
Cleveland's got a bunch of HUD stuff. I get that going. I'll get some of his cards and pass it. Just by virtue that he, does a lot of it.
Yeah, I think as long as he's busy, but if he's not,
I'm going to work on heavy pitch roofs up there.
well, he's getting older, so he
I don't want to do it.
turned down something.
A buddy of mine, he's got 50.
I now call the Norton City Council meeting to order for March 13th, 2017. The time is 7 p.m. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silent prayer. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. First of all, I want to thank Nick. Where's he hiding?
He left.
He's
He
back
left?
in the office.
Okay. Nick, I can't remember his last name now.
Statler.
And Justin Markey for filling in. Carla can't be here tonight, so we have a new face being our council clerk. And Nick Statler is keeping us online. With that said, will you call the roll call, Mr. Markey?
Yes. Ms. Whipke?
Yes.
Mr. Pelot?
Yes.
Mr. Kernan?
Here.
Mr. McGlone?
Here.
Mr. Pearson?
Here.
Mr. Towsley?
Here.
You did that just to mess me up, didn't you?
There's a new order.
New order. Committee of the Whole, reports from standing committees. Are there any reports from committee chairs? Okay, with that, we'll move on with the agenda. The first thing up is council acknowledges the February 2017 budget reports. Next thing is Resolution 39, 2017, and that falls to Mr. Towsley.
Thank you, Madam President. Tonight, I'd like to add to the agenda Resolution 39, 2017, and this is a resolution of appreciation for Judy Dyna for her civil service service to our community. So I'd like to make a motion to add that to tonight's agenda.
And I'll second.
And I'm sorry, you've already seconded, but that's with emergency language, waiving readings as well.
Thank you. Ordinance C 4027.
Want to vote?
Oh, roll call.
Mr.
Thank you.
Towsley?
Yes.
Mr. McGlone?
Yes.
What, we all don't get to vote on that?
That's committee.
That's committee to the whole.
You want, if we're doing committee of the whole, we'll all vote on it. That's fine. You want to do it?
I thought we did before, didn't we?
That's fine.
Sometimes we do.
Oh, I thought we did during the council meeting.
All right, hold on. Here's my little cheat sheet. Okay. Mrs. Whipke?
Yes.
Mr. Pelot?
Yes.
Mr. Kernan?
Yes.
Mr. Pearson?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Ordinance 40, 2017, and that falls to Mr. Pearson.
Yes, I'd like to move ordinance 40-3017 to the night's meeting to amend the prior legislation. Mr. Markley, do we need a vote or committee tonight or a committee as a whole?
If we're doing this committee whole, that's fine. Just there's a legal description that need to be adjusted for one of the eminent domain proceedings,
Right.
and that's why this is being requested tonight.
So are we going to do this as committee or as a whole?
As a whole.
Okay, can I get a second?
We're going to waive the second
Oh,
and third.
I'll second.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Markey, would you call the roll, please?
Yep. Mr. Pearson?
Yes.
Mrs. Whipke?
Yes.
Mr. Pelot?
Yes.
Mr. Kernan?
Yes.
Mr. McGlone?
Yes.
Mr. Towsley?
Yes.
And again, just for clarification, to waive the second and third and pass as an emergency. Communications from the public, limit of 5 minutes. When you come to the podium, please state your name and address for the record. First one up is Mr. Jack Gaynor.
Jack Gaynor, 3920 Wadsworth Road, Norton. Just wanted to say how pleased I am with the Norton school system this year. Their basketball teams especially, and they had a good debate team this year, a good wrestling team, and I can't remember all of them, but they've had some good programs going on down there this year, and I think everybody should get out and vote on May 2nd. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Jim Lino.
Jim Lino, 5058 Grove Avenue. Living on the end of a dead-end road, you wonder what's going to be the next surprise show up. And a couple of weeks ago, I look out, and they're putting up a great big pole kind of close to the house, and with aerials and paraphernalia. When I asked one of the workmen what that was going to be, he says it's for communication. I said, well, there's only a couple of houses down here. Who are they going to be communicating to? But he didn't want to answer. So I kind of wondered what that is, what it's going to do. Is there any more surprises coming out there? And I've often wondered, too, being that close to the house, I hope it doesn't pose as a health hazard as far as pacemakers and whatnot. But you kind of wonder why nobody will let you know what it is.
Okay, I have to ask on that. Do we know anything about that?
I'll have to go see if something's been filed. I don't know.
Mr. Lino, did you identify who the vendor was that was putting it up? Did you ask, was it Spectrum or?
They won't tell you.
Well, I'll check. I'll be happy to check our file and see if anything's come in. That is not ringing a bell, but and if there's certain things, if it's under a certain height, there's not a lot of regulations we can do. If it's over a certain height, then the planning commission and stuff reviews that. So I don't know. I'll see what I can find out.
Even if it's close to his property, it still has to have a certain height before it would,
I believe so.
well, we appreciate that.
Do we currently have any zoning to regulate something
If
like
it's over
that?
a certain height.
What about under, as far as footage from another house, from the road?
I'd have to look at the regulation. I just know usually 200 feet triggers a look-see by our planning commission.
Yeah, Mr. Pilot, there's a lot of controversy right now surrounding these closed cell monopole towers that are going up. If they're in the right of way, they have to file a permit to access the right of way. Their position, I think PUCO sort of agrees with them that they're exempt from local regulation. So when they get cited, they can just go in. They can access the right of way, but they go where they go. There's a big fight going on, I think, statewide with the Ohio Municipal League about how these get regulated because cities have not been successful so far.
I think I'd asked about that
Thank you.
last year.
I'm just not remembering that address, so I'll have to go check.
And they could be on an easement. They could be, who knows?
Right.
Yeah, who knows what the circumstances are.
I brought this up before, we've talked about it, and Mr. Markey, I don't believe you ever did get back or address it. I still would like to see any outside vendor coming in our community must register with the city. And depending on what they're doing, they should be posting a bond. I guess my question would be to Mr. Markey on the situation of Mr. Lino, if they were encroaching over the 15-foot easement. Now they're on private property. You mean to tell me that they don't have to gain his or the property owner's permission?
That's why we'd have to know what the facts were. I mean, we don't know.
Well,
There
I
are-
think by people registering when they come in our community as a commercial entity, you would have these answers already answered. And like I said, the situation up in Ward 1 with the drilling, the mud on the roads and destruction, if you'd have had a bond at that point, you would have had monies to repair these things when they were done.
Well, just to clarify, if someone is using our right-of-way, the only thing that we have that for sure that I can enforce is a $50 fee, a permit fee, which is not much, but it's something we might want to think of looking at in the future. But so to your point, that is a way to get them to register as long as they come in and are telling us. Now, if we see something going on, we have had our zoning person stop and see what's going on. So I'll
I would
and Mr.
think
Lyon, I'll
as-
get more
I
specifics.
have a feeling that it is. Out there, you don't know what is a right-of-way and what you don't, but I suspect that they did put it in a right-of-way, the road right-of-way, but I'm not 100%
Well, we'll see if they
sure.
pulled-
But the fact is that I wake up one morning and here comes East Ohio Gas down through my yard, and I says, what's this all about? To get out of our way? The city
Well,
engineers know what they're doing?
unfortunately,
But the
Dominion-
thing is that this, whatever this is, I had assumed that somebody here in the city knew that they were going up. There's some on Worcester Road West, there's one down my road, but I don't see them other places.
And
There
what's
may
your road
be.
again, Mr. Lionel?
Yeah, but I think what, and personally, I think it might have something to do with the wireless world that we're coming up to, you know. I think they're putting these up, but they wouldn't tell me who they are.
Okay, well,
And what it's
we'll
for.
see what's going on. What's your specific road?
Pardon?
What's your specific road?
Grove Avenue.
Okay,
Yeah, so it's off of
Worcester.
Not Washboard Road, but Worcester Road West.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right.
yeah.
Well,
But
we'll see
anyhow,
what's going on.
it's kind of a mystery. Maybe I don't want to know what it's for, but just kind of wondering why are they putting it there? My wife asked them, they says, this is where it was designated to go. And they have surveyors and whatnot. I'm glad it wasn't my driveway. Another 100 foot down the road, would have never seen it. But that's something I'll get used to, but I'm just curious
yeah, we'll
what it
check
is.
it out for you.
What it's for. So.
Yep, sure.
Lee Beatty, is that right?
Yeah, I just want to, speak on the income tax rollback that we still have in effect.
If you would state your name and
Oh, I'm sorry,
address
sorry,
for the
sorry about
stenographer.
that.
Thank
First,
you.
I'm Lee Beatty, 3280 Alden Lane. Sorry about that. I just want to speak on the income tax rollbacks that's still in effect. What I understand, that money is not being used for what it was put in effect for, collected for. It's what's sitting in a fund. I think as a council, you guys ought to be considering, working towards getting rid of that tax. It was poor legislation to begin with. It has no place. It's all discrimination, pure and simple. Put in effect without the vote of the people. And now the money is just kind of sitting there. So we're twofold. And the purpose of me speaking is, number one, to implore you guys to get rid of that. That needs to go. It shouldn't even be on the books. Second thing is what you do with that money is obviously smartly consider it. Consider what the people want. And since you didn't give us a vote on it in the first place, maybe give us a vote on what you do with that money.
Thank you. Mr. Joe Casey.
Joe Casey, 3141 Monterey Drive. There's just a few things I want to address. Is on the committee meeting for February 21st, a lot of time was spent on hiring Mr. Markey from a contracted employee to a part-time employee for $24,000 a year. Benefits we heard from that is we'd get his taxes. Now those taxes would be around $480 a year. Downfall for that is what we have to pay for the PRS and other benefits. My guesstimation would be between $3,000 and $4,000 a year. So this is another example of putting your wants in front of the needs. That's something that won't benefit the residents. I feel keep them in the place he's in now, keep everything going the way it's going, save the taxpayer some money. Second of all, I haven't heard council or anyone else in that matter very little talk about the crime in Norton. We just ended an 11-year high in Norton, according to the reports that came out with the chief of police. 2016 felony arrest was 144. OBIs was 112. Theft was 299. Sex offenses doubled. Drug offenses was 246. And overdoses was 66. With a community of ours of 12,000-ish, I feel those numbers should be a little less. We pay these prosecutors and we pay the judges to try to do the right thing. It's a perfect example of them not doing the right thing. There was a gentleman who lived in Norton, I'm not going to mention his name out of the respect of the family. 4 times last year in 5 months he was arrested. He was arrested on February 6th for drug abuse instruments. Was fined $100 with fees and everything else was around $749. He was arrested again February 24th on drug abuse instruments, again fined $100. All miscellaneous fines added on to that was $365. On July 18th, he was arrested for possession of drugs later to be proven to be heroin. And he was charged with that and charged with the possession of drug abuse instruments. The drug charges were dropped. He was only charged with the drug abuse instrument, fined $94, after the fees, $122. In total, this gentleman paid $1,330. On September 13th, this gentleman died of a drug overdose. He was 22 years old. He went in front of our judges that we pay 4 times. Not one time did he get probation, he get jail time, he get offered rehab, nothing. Just paid the fines. So before we go ahead and increase the prosecutor's salary, I'm about asking, are they doing the right thing on that one? Thank you.
That's the end of our public communications. Next thing up, consideration of the minutes. Minutes of the February 27th, 2017 regular council meeting. Are there any additions or corrections? Mr. Markey?
I don't know if there's any additions or corrections.
We probably just need to wait until.
Yeah, I would wait until.
All right, well, we're going to put that over, and we'll just go ahead with the minutes of March 6th for the special council session as well until our next council meeting. Reports from officers, boards, and commissions. Mayor Zita.
I don't have anything right now, thank you.
Mrs. Carr.
The only thing I do want to get on people's calendars is Norton Cleanup Day is April 22nd. That will also be the day that we will be planting the tree for Arbor Day. Plans for that are being finalized, so once I can announce that, I will. But if you can hold April 22nd, like I said, that is our Norton Cleanup Day. And we are still accepting donations for Adopt a Spot and for any new caretakers. So if anyone wants to plant some flowers this year, let us know, and we'll get you a spot. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Messner.
One item, Mr. Pearson, I still have not received your fraud questionnaire for the auditors, please.
Oh, I'm going to send that directly to
That's fine.
the state.
But they've given you 3 requests, and they would really like to have it.
I'm still working on one item.
Okay.
Mr. Markey.
Nothing at this time, thank you.
Thank you. We have no public hearings. We're going on with the introduction of new legislation. The new ones added to the agenda tonight's first up, Resolution 39, 2017. Mr. Towsley.
Thank you, Madam President. As I said earlier, this is a resolution of appreciation for Judy Dyna, and I just wanted to point out that she started serving on the Civil Service Commission back in 2008, and thank her very much for her service. And with that, I would like to ask Mr. Markey to please read Resolution 39, 2017.
A resolution of appreciation for the service of Judy Dyna for her service as a representative of the City of Norton Civil Service Commission and declaring an emergency.
And at this time, I'll make a motion to waive second and third readings.
I'll second.
Roll call.
Okay. Mrs. Whipke?
Yes.
We're going to go in this order because this is the order I have on my sheet. Mr. Pelot?
Yes.
Mr. Kernan?
Yes.
Mr. McGlone?
Yes.
Mr. Pearson?
Yes.
And Mr. Towsley?
Yes. And now I'd like to make a motion to adopt Resolution 39, 2017.
I'll second.
Okay. Mrs. Whipke?
Yes.
Mr. Pelot?
Yes.
Mr. Kernan?
Yes.
Mr. McGlone?
Yes.
Mr. Pearson?
Yes.
And Mr. Towsley?
Yes.
Ordinance 40, 2017. Mr. Pearson.
Yes, I'd like to introduce Ordinance 40, 2017 for its first reading. Will the clerk please read it?
An ordinance amending ordinance number 33-2017 previously passed by this council appropriating the property interest described as parcels 41 WD and 41 TV and declaring an emergency.
Thank you, Mr. Markley. I'd like to waive the second and third reading. Can I get a,
I'll second.
Could I make a
Certainly.
comment real quick? The only reason I want to make a comment on this is I had spoken to a resident a couple weeks ago after we passed this, and there was some confusion that we were taking full properties, and I just wanted to clarify that this is taking, what, 8 or 10 feet?
In most cases, yes.
In most cases. And they're holding on to their properties. It's just for the widening of Cleveland Master Road. And I just want to make that clear.
Thank you.
any other questions? Mr. Markey, would you call the roll on that, please?
Mrs. Whipke?
Yes.
Mr. Pelot?
Yes.
Mr. Kernan?
Yes.
Mr. McGlone?
Yes.
Mr. Pearson?
Yes.
Mr. Towesley?
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt 40-2017. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Markey, would you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Whipke?
Yes.
Mr. Pelot?
Yes.
Mr. Kernan?
Yes.
Mr. McGlone?
Yes.
Mr. Pearson?
Yes.
And Mr. Towesley?
Yes.
Thank you. Introduction of prior legislation, ordinance 25-2017. Mr. Towesley.
Thank you, Madam President. At this time, I offer ordinance 25-2017 for its second reading and ask Mr. Markey to read it, please.
An ordinance establishing the salary rates of the city's part-time prosecutors.
And that's the second reading only.
Ordinance 26-2017. Again, Mr. Towesley.
Thank you, Madam President. And at this time, I offer ordinance 26-2017 for its second reading, and I'll ask Mr. Markey to read it, please.
An ordinance establishing and improving compensation for Justin P. Markey as solicitor of the city.
And that's a second reading only as well.
Thank you. Unfinished business. Is there any unfinished business come before council?
Yes, I've asked on numerous occasions about getting a no truck on Easton. It's not yet happened. What's the delay?
Not, you mean signs?
Excuse me, yes, signs, no
We had to
through.
order them,
Okay.
and they arrived Friday.
Okay.
And my guys have been a little busy between the storms and getting ready for snow, so we will get them up. It's a truck sign, and it has the 5-ton limit on there. We had to order them. They were about $100 because we did not have those signs.
And we will be enforcing that, correct?
We will, but I do want to remind everyone, because of the Nash Heights project, there will be trucks going down
Right, and that's
Easton.
understandable. That can't be helped, with
I
buses
mean,
and
so
trash equipment.
I say we're going to enforce it, but there are going to be some exceptions due to that construction, and we're doing our best because of Greenwich being closed to try to keep trucks off of there.
Well, I mean, I think the greatest example of why it's needed is we just filled the north end of it. If anybody's traveled on the north end of Easton, it's worse than it was with the holes. It's a washboard. It's horrible. And I get a lot of complaints on that. So maybe by limiting the weight, we'll be able to resolve some of it. Probably not a lot, but some. But I appreciate you getting that. Thank you.
Speaking of Greenwich, how's that project coming along?
It's moving along. They're on schedule, so we're hoping it'll be reopened very soon. Unless we get 8 inches of snow tonight. But
That's possible.
might slow us down a little bit.
I do have a question. Again, the road boring, any information on that?
I sent out an email today on that.
I don't believe I received it.
Yeah,
It came late.
Oh,
It was probably around 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock. I can just give a brief overview. Johnson Road, the soil borings came back that it is not a water issue, it is a poor base. So we are working with the county to get that corrected by the contractor.
So if I'm understanding you correctly, before it's all said and done, that will be fixed?
Correct.
Okay, great, thank you.
Once you get it was just a short memo Dave sent me that I forwarded to you guys.
It probably came after I...
That's okay.
looked.
If you have any questions, let me know.
Okay, thank you.
We haven't discussed it on the floor before. Did we get the light out there taken care of?
We have a bad box, so it's a little bit bigger repair. Ms. Whipke's referring to Greenwich and Wadsworth Road. So it's on Cleveland, Massillon, you're right. It is on a 4-way flash, and that's going to stay that way until we can get the new box. I'm getting a proposal from the company, hopefully by tomorrow. We did put up additional stop signs as well, because you would think most drivers know you stop at a 4-way flashing, but apparently not. So we're taking all the precautions we can. So just as a reminder to the public, please stop. That's a 4-way stop right now.
Thank
And we'll
you.
get it fixed as soon as we can.
We may have to order some parts. It's just, unfortunately, it's an old, it has an old box, and it's kind of beyond repair. We just need to order a new one. I talked to the company this afternoon.
Thank you. In relation to Mr. Casey's comments on Mr. Markey going over to being an employee as opposed to coming under the contract with Roetzel and Anders, didn't we look at this? He's currently $24,000 a year currently, right?
Thank you. Yes, I was going to address that under
That we need
unfinished,
to-
but that's fine.
Clear this up a little bit, but I'll let you do it if you'd
Yeah,
like to.
that's fine. I was just going to wait till unfinished business and try to address it then, but it is $24,000. And what we've done, we've gone through and backed less than that to cover the cost of the PERS, which is his public employment retirement system. So in essence, it's not additional funds. It'll still be the same amount of money at the end of the day. It's just he's actually taking less because we're paying into the PERS for him.
And that was my understanding, and I wanted to make sure that you understood that. It's not the 24,000 he's drawing the PERS on. The PERS is actually coming out of that 24.
Correct.
Basically, summarizing it up.
Correct.
You'll be writing an employment contract for this position?
Not any different.
You're going to change a job description or employment contract, and if so, who's going to write that contract? I hope it's not Mark or you,
Well,
Mr. Markey.
the contract stays the same as what it is currently. It's just we're compensating in a different way.
No, it's changing it. You're making somebody a part-time employee. I mean, and I brought this up before, is practices of separating company, for lack of better terminology. It starts to change it as a part-time employee. You don't vote to dismiss a company you don't want to deal with. Now, that needs to be addressed, and I'd like to see that addressed, because it's no longer just a simple majority vote on council or the mayor's wishes to change law firms or their wishes to leave us. You need to have something on paper here.
Well, I will
That's gonna come back to
review the
bite us.
current contract and see if we need to revise something.
And when we do that, I think just for the benefit of Mr. Markey and his company, we should have an outside attorney write that, and not somebody that's
Well, I may not
recommended
pay to
by
have
the-
anybody write it. I may write it. I mean, I want to see what
Well,
the
it needs to
contract
stand the
says.
legal test, I mean, because you're not an attorney, nor am I. I don't want to have a situation down the road where we
I
end
think
up
it'll
in a
just be a
suit.
simple revision of the contract, but we'll take a look at that.
Okay, I'd like to see that done before we vote on this.
So I could just weigh in a little bit. The appointment and the removal of the solicitor, it's an appointed position of the city, just like the finance director or the administrative officer is an appointed position. The removal is not by a simple majority. It's by, there's a procedure set out in the charter. It's for cause, and that doesn't change. Whether I'm part-time employee, whether it's a contract employee, the appointed officer of solicitor can only be removed for cause under the charter.
It's my understanding in your current situation, you do not need cause. Either party may step away from that contract for whatever reason, and that was
That's what the contract says. It's not what the charter says, right?
right. And that's why I think it's better to leave it as we are, because it's much cleaner as a 1099. But that can be discussed next week before we have the final vote. Please put that together. I'd like to see what you come up with.
New business, is there anything else under unfinished? Anybody? Okay. New business, is there any new business come before council? Public service announcements.
Other than the traffic light, I don't have any at this time.
Sorry.
So that's okay. No, that's okay.
Madam President, I just don't want to forget, what Carl was the deadline on that, the 16th, I
It's the
think?
16th.
March 16th.
So if anybody's interested, you got a couple of days, and I know Carla would really appreciate us mentioning it and
Thank
any
you.
donations that might be made.
Thank you very much. That being said, there being no further business come before council, this meeting is adjourned at 7:28. No, this is 6:28. You threw me off.
We'll turn it off.
Mr. Double Duty.
He's got a job, right? That's it. It's a paycheck. For a company vehicle, so I might get that.
Are you thinking about that?
They may give me.
Yeah, that's because you use all the miles on your car.
And that's what.
Okay, remember, list, I have